What if I told you that I'm going to strap an awful link onto a glider and you're going to fly it 3 miles and you have to recover it? That's what Trappy did the first time he flew FPV. And it was a total mistake, but I still think to this day there's not a lot of folks that can claim that they flew 3 miles in one shot. The history of FPV for Trappy goes back to 2009 and 2010, which is a whole lot more perspective than a lot of us have in the modern industry today. So, with over a decade of experience, what has Trappy seen? I'll let you hear from him, but I thoroughly enjoyed this part of our conversation. Before we get started, is there anything particular that you want to talk about?
No.
Okay.
I made a comment on a YouTube video, I think, and then you were like, why don't you jump in? And I was like, all right, I got some time.
Yeah, that's actually how it happened. So, ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you I believe it was the aerial anarchist himself, Raphael Perker, also known as Trappy. I don't think he needs any introduction. So do you prefer Trappy or Raphael?
Most people call me Trappy nowadays. Raphael is really hard to pronounce for Chinese.
That's poor. Yeah,
because
okay.
it's got the R and the L, right? It starts with the R and it ends with the L, so that's it's pretty hard for them.
Okay.
So they just like Trappy or Chappy. Like that's what
Chappy. All right. So we're here with Chappy. Well, thank you. So first off, thank you for agreeing to some random dude on the internet interviewing you.
No problem.
And to give the backstory, I did the original interview with Chad Capper, and that interview garnered more attention than I ever expected it would. And you particularly took some, what's the word to use? You took a little, not even umbrage. You just felt like the history of FPV was not represented correctly. And so in order to prepare for, we kind of went round and back and forth, and finally, we settled on a time. And as I got ready to interview you, I started really researching some of the things you've done. And it really put a lot in perspective for me. You really do you think of yourself as the granddaddy of FPV, or?
No, that's a lot of people call me that. I think Stu coined the term in his recent video where he came and visited us. It has kind of progressed in that way, because now there's the new kids on the block, right?
Right.
Back when TBS or when my persona was really in the limelight, that was before mini quads were a thing, right? And then you had the all-time greats like Juz or Charpu come up, and they kind of pushed the wings a little bit to the side and pushed my antics a little bit to the side, which was all right with me. I was really busy at that time focusing on building my dream, which was not having to work for the man. So I left university probably a year or two before mini quads came up, to kind of start this business venture with a couple of people in Switzerland. So yeah, that's how we started Team Black Sheep, and that kind of took, or it still is taking, 99.99% of my day. So yeah, I don't really want to. I'm happy being who I am right now. I don't want to be that guy that, we had a law or a rule at TBS, which was one lawsuit at a time. So my business partners were like, all right, you're getting sued by the U.S. government, so you got to lay low until that is over. And then the minute that was over, I was like, fuck yeah, and then went out and got into trouble with another government.
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
So, you did the US lawsuit. That was in my backyard. I'm in Virginia.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm on the coast of Virginia. I don't know where you flew in, but maybe if you flew into Norfolk, you probably flew into Richmond,
No, I flew into Washington.
into Washington. Okay, and
Yeah,
drove
that
down.
was, that's a whole other story.
Oh man, I can't even imagine. Yeah, um, and that was what, 2014.
I can't remember, to be honest. The lawsuit took quite a long time to
It did.
materialize. Yeah. But it's been like, I don't know. I don't want to say it's been waiting to happen, but we've been poking the bear quite a bit at that time.
So how long? So let me just frame it for the folks that are new. Because here's the thing: there's a lot of people that are new to the hobby, right?
Yeah.
And I mean a lot of people. And I mean I've been at it since about 2016. I wouldn't call myself great or good or even a hobby ruiner. But in researching like what has happened before, all of a sudden I'm like, holy crap, like there's this whole history that I never even knew about that you were part of. And it really was fascinating to me, especially this part about, thinking that there's a lot of drama in FPV now. And all of a sudden I'm going back going, well, this dude like stepped foot on US soil and got sued by the FAA. And I mean, I watched the video. It wasn't awful. It wasn't terrible. I mean,
But by today's standards,
by
it's not
today's
really
standards,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, and now I could see at the times like, oh my God, what is he doing?
Yeah.
But how long had you been flying before that?
I started flying, I think, when I was 6.
Okay.
So I mean, I'm not quite as crazy as Min-Chan, Kim,
Uh-huh.
but it's always been like part of who I am. My uncle in Austria, he always took me out. We didn't really fly FPV or like even
Hmm.
serious RC. Like for myself, it was just a 2-channel glider.
Right.
You chuck off the side of the mountain and you pray to God that there's wind. That will keep you in the air for the walk of shame literally is like 3 hours
Oh my gosh.
because you throw it off the cliff, right? So if you don't have rising air, you don't have
It's
power.
yeah.
It's done. So yeah, that was kind of that's how I started, and then we moved to Singapore. We moved quite a lot when I was young. So I grew up in like 7 different countries.
Hmm.
So yeah, like finding friends was always a little bit hard, but because you got into a school, you were the new kid again.
Yeah.
Which like in Singapore was fine because it was like a private school, so everybody was kind of like in the same environment. But then like later we moved to Germany, and that was like people who knew each other growing up from very young.
Right.
Same for like we moved back to like my hometown in Austria, but I never even had lived there, and that was like a town of 3,000 people, right? So everybody knew
Yeah.
everybody except for that guy.
Yeah.
So it was kind of always like something that I could do by myself, or do with other people, get to meet people, and yeah, just pass the time. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
I
all
mean,
you do when you're young.
I will say that I can definitely relate to the moving around a lot. We moved around a lot when I was a kid. I ended up in so I born here in Virginia Beach, but ended up in Greenville, North Carolina, which that's Eastern North Carolina, and it's a different world. And so I can relate to that. Walking into a school that was like it was eighth grade for me. There were 50 kids, and like everybody was related to each other.
Yeah.
So it was it's like, oh, okay, hi, how y'all doing? By the way, I wear black and I listen to heavy metal. Is that okay with everyone? Um, so do you when do you think, like, if you had to put a timestamp on it, when do you think you actually like really got hardcore into FPV, and when did the whole idea behind Team Black Sheep really start forming?
I got really hardcore into FPV like right off the bat. It was like I went to university in Switzerland, and it was like in the city, so I couldn't really fly RC a lot. So this kind of like all my stuff stayed at home over, to be done over the weekends. But throughout the week, I never really went to class, um, like at all. Like I
Now,
showed up at
what were you going for?
business and IT.
Okay.
So Master of Business Administration and IT. But yeah, it was kind of boring to me. I started my own company when I was 13, doing like IT work and stuff. So I've always, like the stuff that the teachers or that the professors at the university taught were like, that was 3 years ago, dude. Like
Right.
that
Yeah.
kind of like mindset. So I usually like I went to the first class. I made sure that I was aware of all the slides that were posted, and then I just stayed at home. Did my work, and like watched lectures, or watched the slides. It was way faster that way. So I was like kind of bored, and then there was this video from who I consider to be the granddaddy of FPV, which is VR Flyer. He's a Canadian dude, and he was kind of the first guy that hit. I wouldn't say mainstream media, but he was like the first guy that hit Engadget, and which was the Vice at the time, basically.
I remember Engadget. Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I remember seeing that video, and I was like, yeah, that's what I've been missing in RC, because back then, like, I was probably like 20 something, and like, okay, seen seen it, done it. It kind of got repetitive after time. So I was like, okay, I want to do this. And then I remember pitching this to my artificial intelligence professor, to build a drone that was solar powered with FPV on it. And he was like, well, there's people at MIT and at bigger universities that are trying to tackle this right now. Like, how about you just add FPV, and let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
So it didn't really end up being a university project, but I kind of like that's how I kind of got into it. I spent like all the money I had buying like random bits and pieces, because back then you had range video, which I guess doesn't even exist anymore. You did ready-made RC was one of the like first ones that are still around now that were around at that time.
And give me a time, a year here.
2010.
Okay.
Somewhere around that time.
All right.
Yeah, and then I basically I put it into an F5J glider, and I don't know if you're familiar with the terms in the RC world, but F5J are like the ultralight. They're like 10-foot wingspan and 2 pounds weight, right?
Wow.
So like super fragile, and they have this massive engine on the front. Because you only, like in F5J, you get 10 seconds of motor power, and then that's it. And then you have to fly for 10 minutes, and then you have to land on the dot at the beep. Right?
Wow.
So that's like the difficulty of that, I was never really competitive in that because I suck way too hard. It's like a really, it's like, like 3D helis and stuff. There are some pretty good people. But anyway, I had that one, and then I put FPV on it, and I just chucked it. And I had like, all the newbie mistakes, like video patch antenna pointed into the ground,
Right.
35 megahertz control link. I had a servo on the front with like a little flag, and when that started twitching, I knew my RC link was getting low. So like that's how you did it back in the days, right? So you had like this little like flag that like oh shit, and then So I managed to do the impossible, which was like it's a valley where I live, right? So you
Sure.
basically you can't get lost. It's only north or south,
You're right.
right? Or I don't know, east or west, I guess.
Yeah.
But I got lost, and so I was thinking of I was thinking I flew back, but actually, like instead of doing a 180, I did a 360 because I was just way too excited, and I just flew off.
Oh
Um,
no.
I ended up doing like probably like a 3 mile flight
Oh
uh,
wow.
on my first run, right? Because 35 megahertz, it's very
It goes a
forgiving.
long way. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, I'm twitching, I'm fine because I'm coming back. It should be okay.
No,
But I
you're
wasn't
still
going back.
going away. Did it come back? Did you get it back?
Yeah, yeah, I got it back. I don't know how. Like it was really brutal because like you were fighting interference and
Hmm.
it was 2.4 video, 5.8 didn't exist at the time.
Yeah.
So you had all the Wi-Fi noise and like the heartbeat and like all the. It was the first FPV flight like, um, and maybe like the third FPV flight ever that I've been exposed to, right? So
Hmm.
there was really much of best practices to come by. But yeah, it was really really cool. And then I ended up getting like a foam wing, and because I had gone so far on my first flight, like long range had always kind of been natural. I mean,
Hmm.
if I think if you ask people now, like who's gone 3 miles, you're already in that 1%, right?
Yeah. There's not a lot of guys that have done that.
Yeah, and I did that by mistake on my first flight. Um, and back then, like 3 miles was probably like the world record, right? I mean, not really, but there were some crazy people back then, with like glow planes and stuff that
Sure.
on RC groups that were posting some really crazy stuff. But yeah, it was far, at least from my standards. And then yeah, so we started like or I personally started experimenting with making videos, and just flying up and down mountains, and then as you get more daring or bolder, you fly lower and then fly like between trees and
Hmm.
uh, I don't know the feeling of long range. I guess if you go into the long range hooligans group on Facebook right now, you can like kind of relive people getting into long range and like
Hmm.
trying it for the first time. It's a way different feeling. Um, like even with mini quads, if you punch your throttle and you hear the quad 10 seconds later, like that just sends shivers down your spine. That's how you know, like, holy shit, I'm that far away. Like if I do anything wrong right now, I'm gonna be walking for the
There's
rest.
there's no margin of error at that point,
Yeah, yeah,
and you're
and
not
that
getting it back.
most of the time, no, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you're gonna try. Like I had
Well.
I had rescue operations, like being stuck in the side of a mountain because I jumped from one cliff to the other and then couldn't get back anymore, and then they had to like it was like they had to call in the mountain rescue squad that like threw ropes down and so like there was all kinds of crazy
But
shenanigans.
did you recover it?
Yeah, of course. Like I did not leave without the plane.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is
Um,
that is that is truly amazing. So when did the so go so let me try to tie some of these together. It seems like there was a kind of a nexus of technologies, right? You had some of the old RC technology coming together with some of the newer, I guess, what the newer control links, and what else along with GoPros. Like where did it all really coalesce?
GoPro was one of the biggest catalysts of FPV,
Hmm.
and I'm talking like GoPro One already,
Right.
which was like I think it was 480p or some
Yeah.
like some super shitty quality. Um, but that was like the first time you could really put HD camera onto a drone. Um, I actually, ironically, I didn't start off with a GoPro kit because it was 480p. I had a Sanyo VCP
Hmm.
something something, which is like a massive camera.
Wow.
But I taped that to the wing and immediately like it had built-in optical stabilization, um, so it wasn't a cheap camera. But yeah, it just kind of like it enabled you to tell a story in ways that have never been seen before. Like, I mean, the video that we got back then was pretty much. on a level with like commercial grade helicopter footage. I mean, if you look at
Right.
like, like the old days, like the helicopter
Oh
footage was
yeah.
shaky, and I mean they had zoom, which we didn't have, but we were able to line up shots, and
Hmm.
film in HD and put that on the internet. Um, and it was just a really, if I mean, if anybody that's watching is interested, like go check out the Team Black Sheep channel, sort
It's
by
all
date.
still up.
It's most of it is still up. Like I had to remove quite a bit of it because of the, you
The
know,
lawsuits.
yeah, when an OSD shows 20,000 feet, it's
There's a
incriminating,
problem. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
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 um, but so yeah, so there's a lot of videos online where you can really just like see us like really trying and playing with the technology in ways that are like, if you saw that today, it was like, nah, not that cool, and just move on. And it blew people's minds. Like, I mean, the New York video that we did, it made it
I watched
like
that. Yeah.
every bloody news channel in the world. And if you posted that now, it would be like, yeah, you're an
Right.
idiot, shut the hell up. But I think that's always like the history of aviation is full of idiots, right? Like, I mean, if you look at the Wright brothers, they did the similar stunt with the Statue of Liberty than we did with a drone. They flew down Washington, I think the streets or something. There was a
Right.
guy that landed on the um,
One of them.
somewhere in Russia, like on the
One of
red.
them died 2 years after they took off. I mean, like it was
Yeah,
fatal.
yeah. I mean, it was just full of people like, hold my beer and watch this kind of mentality.
Yeah.
But I think that sort of stuff is necessary to push not only the technical boundaries but also the social acceptance of it, right? Because I like back when I saw that Vermont video of that guy flying over the golf club, immediately, there was like this, in the movies you have like this moment of clarity where you see like hundreds of years into the future, and
Hmm.
it just all makes sense. That was kind of the like, hell yeah, now we can like make package deliveries. We can we can let people who are disabled, we can let them
Right.
experience flight in ways that have never been possible before. Like we can do so many like awesome things. And I was like, okay, I gotta do something revolving around that. Um,
Hmm.
and really like laws and they were only like, we regarded laws as like limiting progress.
Hmm.
Um, because to me, like drones should be everywhere. There's no reason why a package delivery drone cannot take off and land at a busy airport, right? The technology is there to do it safely. Um, it's just that there's the social acceptance of it, right? It's like
There's a
when
fear.
cars, yeah, when cars were first around, people probably weren't too receptive of it either. Um, and same with trains, and same with pretty much every new technology. Like when I think when Bill Gates or I don't know if it was Bill Gates or um, the Apple guy, Steve Jobs, who said like a computer in every household,
All
and
right.
people were laughing at him, right?
I mean, look now. It's a
Yeah,
computer in
exactly.
every pocket.
Yeah, exactly. So they were even off by a factor of 10, right?
Yeah.
But people thought like that notion was ridiculous. And like I say, like in 10, 15 years time, nobody's even gonna worry about, flying over populated cities, like flying over crowds and all this
Hmm.
BS, really has no place in my opinion, in limiting the growth of this technology.
There's a it's funny. I've had a so being in the area that I'm in, we're chock full of military around here. I've had quite a few conversations with the guys. One particular gentleman who shall remain nameless, officer in the Marines, and they're putting together how to put down drone right of ways, right, and
Yeah,
and how to do autonomous right of way and things like that. And there's a he and he had never seen mini quads before, which was interesting. I'm like, you're building out what's supposed to be our infrastructure. You've never seen a mini quad, and I show him a mini quad, and him and another, they're both F-18 pilots, and the very first question they asked me, I knew exactly where they were going, was, how much will it carry?
Yeah.
And I said, about 1 kilo. And they said, that's about right. Because they want to weaponize it immediately. Yeah. But there's a whole lot of fear baked into just general everyday people, that and the government.
Yeah. I'm not saying those fears aren't justified.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, I mean, it's pretty much a miracle, in my opinion, that, like, why are they still suicide bombers? It makes no fucking sense. Just get a PX4, strap whatever you want on it, type in the GPS coordinates, and you're done, right?
Right.
But on the other hand, the availability of technology doesn't really, or like the laws and all of that has no impact on any of this. Right? Like, the only way that you can really understand technology is by really allowing it to happen, with all the goods and with all the bads. Like,
right.
I mean, if we limited the internet because, pedophiles could share, their filth, it makes no fucking sense, right? And I'm not advocating any of this.
No, yeah. But, well, it's Pandora's box to a degree, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Everybody, once you give access to a tool to everyone, they can use that tool for good or for ill.
Yeah.
And that's the same way. I mean, people are out there doing really cool things with drones, and people are also out there doing really evil things with them. Yeah. But the technology's out. It's not going back in the box. Yeah. Even if you regulate it away, it won't. And that is it for our interview series with Trappy. I'd like to thank Trappy for his time. He's a very busy man, and he made an hour in his day to talk to me, and I understand that is no small thing for him. So thank you, Trappy. I greatly appreciate it. You guys can go find them at Team Black Sheep. I mean, it's all over the place. You know where they are. But if you haven't checked out their products, I highly recommend them. I'm still, to this day, I actually am looking around for an original Mr. Steel motor, because I unfortunately finally ran out of the original Mr. Steel motors, which were some of my favorites. But you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you all soon. Bye.